Behind the Brand features the people who are making things happen. Get the insight to grow your biz from experts who've done it. Get behind the brand. Sponsored by Raven Internet Marketing Tools.
Hi, I'm Brian Elliott. Welcome to another edition of Behind the Brand. Today I'm here with founder and CEO of Nimble, John Ferrara. John, welcome to the show.
Brian, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here today.
One of the first questions I always ask my guests, how did you get this job?
The job as a father, as a husband, as an entrepreneur, as a fellow traveler amongst my friends and finding my way. Which one?
Tell us your story. How did you get here?
I saw a problem. And I think the best products come from a problem that you're having. And my most recent problem was that I found this thing called social media, and I thought it was amazing. And I found it as a great way to help me connect with people that are important to me. And I saw its application to business. And I looked for a way to leverage my social engagement to the contacts I was social engaging to. I couldn't find it. And I looked for a solution that would help me to more effectively connect my social list and engagement to my contacts. And I was surprised I couldn't find it. And then I looked at the traditional background of the companies that I built before, CRM, and I found out that they're not even about relationships, that they're really management tools to keep the finger on the pulse of business and the hand around the neck of the salesperson. And I decided to do something about it, and I started a company called Nimble.
So let's go back just a few years. This isn't your first company. This isn't your first time around. You had a company called Goldmine back in the day, and it turned out pretty good for you. I mean, kind of lived up to its name, and that was in the traditional CRM space.
Yes.
Right? Tell us about kind of the journey, how that got started, and then how you transitioned that now into Nimble today.
Well, you know, Brian, it's really related because 20 years ago, I was working as part of a sales team out in the field for a technology enterprise company called Banyan. I was one of the first systems engineer on the West Coast, and as I moved into sales and sales management, I quickly recognized that salespeople don't work in a vacuum. They work as part of a larger team,
right.
And everybody in the team touches the customer, at least they should. And I recognized what my team needed was a tool that enabled all of us to communicate and collaborate, to tie that communication and collaboration back to who we were talking about, our customer, to be able to manage communication with the customer, to do top-of-mind marketing with the customer, and to manage the resulting business pipeline that occurred from those interactions. Now, when I say all that to you today, you go SFA and CRM if you're at all familiar with the category of sales automation or customer relationship management. But 20 years ago, it was black leather daytimers, pink while you were out slips, and spreadsheets done the night before they were due because it wasn't part of our business process.
Yeah.
And those methods didn't work for an individual, let alone for a team. Yeah. And my dad always taught me that teams that work together effectively win games.
Yeah, I just had this vision of the cell phone about this big, like, antennas off the cars and all that stuff.
That was it. Well, it was really, as you pass each other in the airport terminal, you go, hey, did you talk to that client? Hey, did you get that system installed? And so I looked around for a solution that would help me to empower my team to work more effectively together. And what I wanted to do was to run a wire through all the daytimers, so everybody was on one page. So no matter who picked up the phone, you could see who you're talking to, what's pending, who's going to do it, what's been done, who's done it, and all communications. And I couldn't find a tool. At 27, I was too young and dumb to know any better. I quit my job and I started a company called Goldmine.
And you built it, you had a big office probably right off the bat, and you had...
Oh, yeah. It all just happened. You pour water on it, and the sponges grow up, and all of a sudden you have an army of people using your product. No. So I had an idea, and I got together with a college buddy of mine, and we built the product.
Okay.
And so how do you sell a product? You're in an apartment. We got $3,000 between us. We're wet behind the ears. We believe we can do it, but how do you do it? And I think that in that situation, you got to look at lessons in life that you've learned. And at Banyan, we sold a complex enterprise product direct. It was expensive, and we had guys in suits, and we sold a fair amount of it. Okay. There was a little company called Novell that had a work group network solution that was affordable and easy to get started with, and they kicked Banyan's butt. Because businesses like to buy things that are affordable and easy to get started with, and like to buy from local resellers who know them. And so when I set out to build the model for building Goldmine, I emulated the Novell model. In fact, I went after the Novell resellers because they had laid the highway, the network, and I had a network business application to drive on it. So basically, I called up every Novell reseller in the country personally, one by one, and I shared my vision. I said, I've got a tool that'll help you grow your business, that'll help you build better relationships, that'll help you automate your sales and marketing. And I got them to use it, and eventually they started to sell it to their customers, and that's what bootstrapped Goldmine and enabled me to grow a company out of an apartment on $3,000, and eventually grow it into a company that had over 2 million customers, about 5,000 resellers, and into a product that some people say helped pioneer CRM.
I think that's an important lesson. You know, the people watching this show, they're entrepreneurs, they're startup people, they're other marketing peeps. And what you just said I think is really important, maybe subtle, but I want to touch on. And that is you really reached out, time is really irrelevant. You know, if you did it 20 years ago, so what? It's those principles can still be applied today. And that is you connected with an audience of audiences, people that already had sort of the channel established, the network, as you say, and you just simply plugged into those people and capitalized and were very efficient. And I think that people today can still do that. It's an incredible lesson. Thank you.
Absolutely. Your best salespeople are users of your products. And if you can tap into their success and empower them to share that success with other people, you can create a company that's unstoppable.
Well, and the other thing that I like about that too is a lot of people are focused on B2C. Like we look at all these consumer products and how amazingly flashy and sexy it is. We watch their TV spots. What we're talking about is nuts and bolts, heavy lifting B2B.
Yeah.
And you had a great amount of success doing that.
Yeah. It wasn't enough to just get them to start reselling it, because eventually they sold it to all their existing customers, and then they called me up and asked me for leads.
Yep.
So how do you generate leads with no money?
Yeah.
I went and got some books on marketing and guerrilla marketing, and quickly figured out it's more powerful when other people talk about your product than when you talk about it.
Yep.
And you can't call up writers and say, write about my product.
So let's stay back on Goldmine for a second. So you rolled that out.
Right.
And then what happened? How long did it exist, and then what happened?
So Goldmine was 1989 to 1999, about 10 years.
Okay. And then what?
So after 10 years, I sold it because at 30 people, it was fun. At 350 people, I felt like an HR manager. And let's just say people do the darndest things.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
They do. And at the end of your life, they don't give you a badge of how many dollars you make, but I think they should give you a badge of how many souls you touch. And I think the most important souls to touch are your family and friends. And as an entrepreneur, there isn't enough time in the day for that.
So you took a break. You sold your company. Did you do well with it?
Yeah, we did pretty well.
Okay. So you had a little cushion, a little golden parachute, and you unplugged from corporate life and raised a family.
I did. I think it's harder to be a parent at home than it is to go to work, for all the parents out there.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
And I think more dads should to go in the home and experience that, and they'll appreciate what it takes to be at home as a present parent on a day-to-day basis and deal with things. Because at work, they let you pretend you're in control.
Yeah.
But at home, your kids, it's managed chaos.
Yeah, and I think probably the most important work you'll ever do is the work you do at home, with those kids, that family. For me, I know what you're talking about. I'm a family man. And even though I love what I'm doing, I love this is the funnest gig ever, perhaps my legacy will be those kids. That's what it's about.
I think it's not just the legacy that you create, because ultimately, one of the things I learned about children is I think we all come pre-wired. I think we are, in many respects, who we are right when we come out. And your job is to really empower them to become fully who they are, and to protect them and teach them to love themselves and respect others.
I agree with you on that. And I also think that it's our job to bring out whatever potential they have, and a lot of what's happening in education too is a shame, because a lot of people will agree that most kids are, well, everyone is born an artist. That we're coloring. We didn't care about coloring in the lines. We were just creating our own art. And a lot of people have talked about this. It's not my original idea, but it's true. We weren't ashamed of dancing, and we weren't afraid of coloring outside the lines. And yet we get into school, and it's all very structured. And it's about getting good at taking tests, and not about learning things and expanding our minds.
And one of the other things I learned about parenting, Brian, is that I think that as opposed to parents being the teachers, our kids are our teachers. That if you're truly present as a parent and you're involved, that your kids can teach you things about yourself that you've never known or seen.
Yeah.
Because I think the people that love us will reflect our crap back at us
Yeah.
in life.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to look at your crap and work on it, you can grow as a human being. And ultimately, I think that's what we're on this planet to do. And I think that it's made me a better and more effective entrepreneur by understanding myself better and by understanding people better, by spending the time as a parent that I did. And I think it's an opportunity that unfortunately not enough people are able to do these days, because so many of us have to really struggle to go out there and make ends meet.
Yeah. What kind of advice would you give to people kind of work-life balance-wise if they don't have the choices that you had, the luxury of having a successful company, they'd be able to take dedicated time off? What would you say to them?
What I'd say to them is I'd try to find a balance in an environment where I could spend some time, because you could always take some time out. If you work for the right company and the right people, they'll understand that.
It's about quality, right? Not necessarily quantity.
It is. So it's taking that moment to work once a month in the classroom with your kids. Or something that I do, I take my daughter to a thing called Y Guides. And so we go camping once a month. Cool. And it's dad and daughter time. And I think that's a critically important thing for a father to do with his daughter. Of course, I do that with my sons, with the Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
But it's something I can do on the weekend.
Spend individual time with them.
It is. And I think it's really important to spend one-on-one time with all your kids, and especially your wife.
Yeah. And you were telling me about dinner time at your house. Do you put the cell phones? Tell me about that.
Well, I find that more and more people are just walking around like this all the time.
Yeah.
And
even in the same house.
Exactly. and so one of the things that I've asked my family to do is to take the phones and the devices and make a pile at dinner time. If we're at a restaurant, if we're at home, the devices need to be put down, because ultimately it is truly about being present and connected. That's all we have in life. That's all we'll take away.
Yeah.
And when you're on your device, you're not truly connected with the person in front of you. And I'm not just talking about family, I'm talking about people in general. Too many times I see people spending more time beating on their phone to try to get more plus ones and likes and retweets than they are actually being with the person in front of them and building that connection, because it's only the connections and vibrations that we share that we could take away with us.
So that's kind of been a common thread that's run through all of your businesses up to Nimble now, right? Mm-hmm. So let's fast forward. You had a great company. You raised a great family. Mm-hmm. Now you're back.
Yeah.
Some people, I think, will think, you're seasoned, experienced. Maybe someone will even say, you were at the top of your game, you retired like Jordan or some of these guys, the Seinfelds of the world. Is it hard to come back? Some of those great athletes and actors, they couldn't do it. They were done, they did their thing, and that's it. But now you're back bigger and better than ever.
I think that we all question ourselves if you're human and wonder if we could or should. And I, like any normal person, did when I considered starting a new company. You have to understand that I'd been out of the tech industry for 10 years.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Right.
I mean, that's like light years. 10 years is like saying 100 years.
And also, I'm over 50, right? So how many guys who are over 50, been out of their industry for 10 years, can even contemplate going back into work, let alone creating a company? And let's face it, creating a company is hard work. It's a 24-hour-a-day job.
So why did you do it? I mean, you got a big mountain of money, probably someplace. You did really well. Is it just in your blood? I mean, what is it all about?
Brian, there's a lot of reasons I did it, and I'll share a few that I think are important. Number one is I think you should do what you love, because if you do what you're passionate about in life, it's not work, and it's what makes a human being empowered. And so I absolutely love relationship management, and I love empowering people and businesses to grow. What's more fun than that?
Yeah.
The other thing is that my kids grew up seeing their father as a dad at home, and there's nothing to take away from that. But when they went to school and said, well, what does your dad do? They said he was a photographer. So I went back to school and I studied photography when I left work. But ultimately, I wanted them to learn about entrepreneurship, but I couldn't tell them about it. I had to show it to them.
Do you think entrepreneurs are born, or are they made?
I don't think it's something you can necessarily learn at Harvard.
Yeah.
Not to take anything away from that fine institution, but I think that I would not be the entrepreneur that I am had I not had my own struggles as a young man. So I grew up in the west side of Los Angeles in a nice neighborhood, and during the 70s, my father's car dealership ran into the recession, and we moved from the west side to Pacoima.
Beautiful Pacoima.
And you know what? It's a wonderful town. There's some wonderful people that I met that I'm still friends with today. But it caused me to live in a different environment, to go through struggles, and to challenge myself in ways that I never knew that I could. And just like that tree on the top of Half Dome or on the top of a mountain that's a little bit bent, I was stronger because of it. And many of my friends who went to, from my grammar school to Loyola and later on to SC or whatever school they went to, today they still work for somebody. Mm-hmm. And I retired when I was 40. And I attribute that to the struggles that I went through, the different environments that I had to go through.
Yeah, the refiner's fire.
Yeah. And I think it empowered me to feel comfortable to be able to take those chances in life.
So what advice would you give to people who are just getting started, young or old, experienced, not experienced? Give us some of the lessons learned. And talk about some of your mistakes too, not from pointing out where you went wrong, but more from a perspective of what you learned from it.
I think that the biggest secret in life is doing what you're passionate about, finding a problem that you have, and building a plan and following through with that. It really sounds simple.
Okay, so let me play the other side of the coin. What happens when that doesn't work? When I've only got $3,000,
right,
and I love doing what I do, and I've spent my $3,000, and I'm done, and nothing is happening.
Well, you have to pivot, right?
Yeah.
That's what we all talk about. But there's a backstory to Goldmine that most people don't really even know. So when Goldmine started, in the back of my head, I had this problem, and that was the relationship management problem. But my partner, he wanted to write an accounting program. So he wrote this accounting program and said, let's go start this accounting program and sell this network accounting program. And I said, okay, yeah, we'll give it a try. Well, first of all, I don't know the difference between a credit and debit back then. And selling an accounting system is not fun. Selling a sales and marketing system, that's fun.
Yeah.
And but I did it, and I was good at it. But ultimately, as we got better in building the dealer channel and the customer base, we needed a tool to manage our relationships and our customers and automate the sales and marketing. And so I built and designed Goldmine to do that. And eventually, Goldmine had more traction than the accounting system, and we had to pivot. But all of our revenue was coming off the accounting system, so it's scary to make those changes.
Yeah. Okay, so you had two parallel paths going, and you picked the one that had the best feature.
But it didn't have revenue, right? So you had to eject and abandon your revenue stream and pursue something that you believed in, that you're passionate about.
So is your message just about going for it sometimes, risking it all? I mean, is that savvy advice?
I believe that entrepreneurs are the ultimate risk takers. Reid Hoffman said about entrepreneurship that it's the kind of guy who would jump off a cliff and build the airplane on the way down.
So talk to us about some of mistakes you've made along the way. You developed this new platform, Nimble, a couple of years ago, right? And now you're into a new iteration and new things. What are some of the things you've learned along the way creating Nimble?
Well, I think the biggest thing I learned about building Nimble is the power of community.
Great name, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. There's a story behind that, too. If we get to it, I'll share that with you.
Tell it to me right now. I want to hear it.
Okay. So let's just say Goldmine was a great brand name.
Yeah.
Right? So turn your contacts into gold. The more you invest in your customer base, the more gold that you get out of it. And so the story behind Nimble was that I started swimming the social river 4 years ago, and I saw the immense power and its potential to apply that to businesses, and to empower them to grow their customers and communities by leveraging social media and integrate the listening engagement. And so I decided to build a platform that takes all the ideas that I had about Goldmine, which was that your customers and the engagement with them is what builds relationships and your ability to grow your business, and apply social media to it.
But how do you, with all these different platforms, how do you connect all the dots? Because it can be, if you have a business or website, whatever, it can be like herding cats, right? You have people that hang out on Facebook, people who are tweeting on all these different platforms. How do you connect the dots?
Well, ultimately, the whole idea about Nimble is that life is social, business is social. People buy from people they like, and they like people who know them. How do you get to know somebody without listening to them? In the old days, we got to know somebody going in the office and looking at their walls. Today, we do it electronically, but we do it in 6 different tabs in our browsers and 3 different apps in our desktops.
Yeah, I would say, how do you get to know people if you don't know where they are?
Right.
You know, I know who I want to reach,
right,
but I don't know where to find them.
Yeah. Well, they're out in the river. I call it the social river, right? And so where do people hang out? They hang out in communities and blogs and hashtags. And so what you need to do is you need to find out where people that you're interested in hang out and begin to go out and have conversations with them. And that's what I did to build Nimble. So here I was, this guy who'd been out of the business for 10 years with an idea of a product, but how do you actually go out there and build your brand, validate your ideas, refine your messaging, build a team to create the product, and bring it to market? And these were all scary things. So what I did is I went out and found other people who had similar concerns and issues. And I found a hashtag called #SCRM, Pound Social CRM. And I started hanging out in that hashtag and talking to other people who had similar ideas and sharing my ideas with them. And they gave me feedback and support and encouraged me to go out and build what I built. And then what I did is I built the initial version of that and then went back out into the social river and engaged more people and began to get more feedback on that. And these initial relationships that I built were the kindling, the initial embers that helped me to build the whole brand and the product to begin with.
Wow. So for people who don't know what hashtag is, it's primarily used on Twitter, and it's a way to sort of create a thread. You can either create it yourself, or you can follow another thread, either doing a search function or whatnot, and it's done by the # or pound, and then whatever you like. And you can drill down into these threads and read what people have written about in that space, or kind of create your own path.
Yeah.
Mark Cuban is connected to Nimble as an investor.
He is.
How did you meet Mark?
The funny thing is that Mark and I actually go back many, many years. So this company I worked at in Dallas called Banyan was a network operating system, and Mark Cuban used to be a network VAR. And so Mark had a business where he would install networks for businesses, and he was one of our resellers in Dallas back in the days. And back then, I didn't know him well, but we were in the same sort of circles back then. And then through the years, as I started building Nimble and started reaching out to the community and building relationships with different people, that relationship got rekindled, and he got real excited about what we were doing and wanted to be involved. And I said, heck yeah, because I respect his chutzpah, right?
Yeah, he's fearless, right? I mean,
yeah,
he's known for taking risks, and he's got his finger on the pulse of a lot of good things. And he's a very visible, celebrity status guy who can also help get the word out about Nimble and be an evangelist, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the people that I brought in as early investors into the company were key people that absolutely understood the power of business relationships and could add value in ideas and helping us to build our company and our brand.
So where do you see social going? So a lot of people are talking about social media going away and being replaced with the term social business. Social media may focus just on media, but business may encompass all aspects of the business, from sales to finance to customer service to media and campaigns. What are your thoughts? Where's it going?
Well, on an individual basis, social is changing the way we work and play. On a business level, in the old days, we used to yell at our customers. And today,
I mean, with interruptive messages, that kind of thing?
Faxes, cold call, yellow page ads, advertising, direct mail, email blasts.
All right.
And today they've shut down.
Traditional advertising.
Right.
Still alive and kicking today.
Right. They throw it away. They're having conversations amongst themselves about what they're going to buy.
It's one way.
Well, it's now they're yelling back at us. So they're having conversation about what they're going to buy. They're yelling back at us. And the companies that aren't listening today are going to be dead tomorrow. And so companies today think that social media as a marketing tool. Or they think it is putting a community manager in front of their company to do the listening engagement for the company is making them a social business. And they're dead wrong, because it's not just a community manager that needs to listen and engage. It's the customer service people, it's the product people, it's the sales people, and especially the C-level executives. Because if your executives aren't out there deep in the river, listening and engaging and understanding what the constituency needs and what they're saying, how can they make effective decisions? They can't rely on somebody else to basically listen for them and tell them what's going on.
Well, there's a few good examples. There's pioneers out there. There's Michael Dell and some of the CEOs. But is what you're saying, it's either like top of the pyramid and nothing else, or it's the bottom of the pyramid and nothing else? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying it's the whole company.
Okay.
Because to build a brand today in social, it really requires the entire team to be involved and empowered to effectively listen and engage.
So it's connecting everybody.
A social business today has all of its listen and engagement tied to the context you're listening and engaging to, all the internal collaboration that's going on about those contacts tied to the context that they're listening to, and then any sales, marketing, customer service, and accounting, customer-facing integrations tied back to the contact, so that the whole company is connected, and anybody who picks up that contact can see where the lead came from, which drip marketing track they're on, if there's a forecasted sale, if that customer is talking about you in the social stream or community, and if there's an accounting issue or a customer service ticket for them. Everybody's on one page.
Is that in essence what Nimble is?
That's essentially where we're going. And we're starting by enchanting the individual. Because if you can empower an individual person at a business to bring all the disparate contacts, their calendars and communications from all the places they are today, and let's face it, your contacts are not in Outlook. They're not in Google Contacts. They're in Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn.
Right. Splintered all over the place.
They're all over the place.
Yeah.
And you communicate via IM, text message, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Skype, and email.
Whatever it takes, carrier pigeon. I mean, you got to get through to people.
None of them are connected.
Yeah.
You don't know what you said, who you said it to, what your team members said. So that's the core of what we fix. And CRM systems don't do that. CRM systems are basically dead databases that you type stuff in. They don't tell you anything you don't know about your contacts.
Yeah, export a list and, send out this or send out that.
And so that's why people live in Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, because it's live, real data and connections to people. And so Nimble fixes that at its core. But once you do that, then you can integrate the tools you need to do to attract and retain customers. Because ultimately, all businesses are in the customer attraction and retention business. And most companies, they don't have a good website. They don't do anything decent with the leads that they get. And they're not getting that lead information to the salesperson at the right time. And then if the salesperson does anything with that, they don't give it to the marketing people to measure the ROI. And so Nimble's whole secret is that once we empower the individual, then we're going to empower the team, and then we're going to enable a company to do more effective sales, marketing, and customer service.
So what is keeping you up at night? What are some of these problems yet unsolved?
Brian, what keeps me up at night is the infinite amount of wonderful things that can be done to make businesses more effective, and my desire to build a product that absolutely makes it easy for them to do it. Because there's a lot of complex, expensive tools out there that absolutely don't fit the masses. And I'm all about the small and medium-sized business customers that have seen the benefit that big businesses have gotten from implementing customer and sales and marketing tools, and are looking for something and empower them to do that in a social way that's let's say, nimble.
Yeah. How do you know when to move on? How do you know how long to give an idea life, or cut bait and start something else? I think a lot of people struggle with that, especially those who are developing new products. What would you say to that?
I have the benefit of having driven down this highway before. And I know the feeling of the car as it gets up to speed. I know the feeling as they go around curves. And you've driven a car before, and you've driven at high speeds before, and you've driven around corners before, and you know when it feels right, you know when it's out of control. And I think inherently, we all, if you trust your inner self, we all really know the right decisions and what needs to be made. And hopefully you have trusted advisors that you're working with that you've gone out and nurtured that can help guide you through some of these situations. But ultimately, I really do believe in gut, and I know when the car is getting up to speed and when it's really taken off.
Yeah.
And at this moment in the life of Nimble, it's we're at a place that Goldmine was 5 years in, 1 year in to the company, and so it's pretty exciting.
So, I mean, cars will pull out in front of you. You got to slam on your brakes and swerve once in a while. Mm-hmm. What has surprised you recently? Like, what's been something, you say you're used to the car, you're a good driver, you're comfortable at high speeds, but what has surprised you recently? Maybe either in the landscape or with the technology or with what customers are asking for?
Brian, what has truly surprised me is the feeling that I've touched a nerve, that I've stuck my tongue in a light socket, that people out there are starving for tools and techniques and methodologies and ways to help them be more effective.
Are we still disconnected then? Is that what you're saying? I mean,
absolutely.
With
you
all
yourself. Look at your desktop. If we pulled out your computer right now, I know exactly what it's going to look like. You have Google Cal, Google Mail, not Google Contacts open because it doesn't tie to anything. You have Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and Hootsuite open. You have Pinterest and Foursquare maybe. No, Foursquare's on your phone. And so basically you have all these different tabs open.
Yeah, silos, really.
And you're going back between all of them. So if you bring up a contact in Google Contacts, you can't see what's pending, who's going to do it, what's been done, who's done it, in all communications.
Yeah.
If you go to an email, you can't see what you said to that person the last time because they got 5 emails and 6 social profiles. And if you go to the calendar, you can't jump to that record to review it. And that's just the heart of the relationship problem. And that's why people don't live in their CRM systems and they live in Outlook, Address Book, and Google Contacts, because that's where their communications and the calendar activities are. And you build relationships by saying what you're going to do and doing what you're going to say.
Yeah. I love your story from a lot of different angles. We talked about this off camera a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people feel stuck. They feel like, well, I'm too old, or I'm too young, or this idea has already been done. Mark Zuckerberg has already got 1 billion people doing his thing, and so I can't come up with anything new. And I think what you have done in many ways has rejected all of those obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
You're breaking down barriers. You're 50 years old, and here you
52.
are. Fine. You're, in many respects, you're this old dog that's learning new tricks, and you're teaching a few, right? And so you've reinvented yourself. You've come back to a category that, you're probably back in the days when DOS was what it was all about, and now here you are, keeping up with all the young dogs in the social stream. You've hit your stride and you got this great product. So I think that is a very valuable, subtle lesson I think a lot of people should take away from this, that it's never too late. There's always another idea. And when I think of what Mark Zuckerberg's done, it's remarkable. But I think, gosh, 1 billion people? Well, fine. That means there's room to carve out a number 2, a number 3, a number 4. Mm-hmm. I think, even a few million of something. You don't have to have the entire world to be part of what you're doing. But if you just have enough of the right people doing the right thing, you can do great things.
What's more fun than connecting with other people? It's in our DNA.
Yeah. Well, everything has changed and nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Right? It's still about relationships.
It is. And what we're trying to do is put the R back in CRM, because I just think that CRM systems, the traditional ones that are out being sold today, aren't about relationships. And I'll tell you a story about the birth of CRM. So 20 years ago, there was contact managers like ACT, and sales team relationship managers like Goldmine, and they integrated contacts and what you need to do and what you're saying to them, and people loved them. People loved them so much that salespeople adopted them worldwide. And
well, we have this false sense of security, right? We got the data, we have what we want, right? There's probably some complacency with that.
No, what happened was, Brian, was that corporations got fearful. They got fearful that the salespeople were going to walk out the door with the contacts.
Okay.
And so what they did is they basically forced them to take all the contacts and put it in the CRM silo. And so the CRM system became the silo to keep the contacts and to get the salespeople to type in what they were doing so they could keep track of the salesperson's activities.
Accountability, okay.
Right. So it wasn't about making the salespeople more effective. It was about keeping their hand around the neck of the salesperson and the finger on the pulse of business. And ultimately, that's why salespeople don't live in the CRM system. They don't even put their real contacts in. I was at a lacrosse game with a buddy of mine the other day who works at an unnamed huge bank. And he said to me, we don't even put our real contacts in the CRM system. We just put the ones we need to get paid commission on. We keep our real contacts over here because we never know.
Yeah, you might move on.
Yeah.
John, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Really enjoyed talking with you. We've been talking with John Ferrara, CEO and founder of Nimble. Thanks for being part of the show.
Thank you, Brian. It's a real pleasure. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
This Behind the Brand episode is brought to you by Raven Internet Marketing Tools, powerful data and tools for online marketers. Get a free trial at raventools.com/behind.